My dad was a builder. He owned a construction company, so he was a general contractor. And he moved out there because, Danville was going through a change. Danville was being built basically, and there was a lot of new development out there. So my dad moved out there to be part of it, and it wasn't even a stoplight yet. There was no traffic lights or anything. It was one lane town, just Danville Boulevard, and that's it. He was also a really good skier. He was a ski patrol for a few years. And when I was just able to start skiing at 4 and 5 years old, he was taking me into the mountains on these missions, and they were crazy. Like, he would get me up in Danville at like 4 in the morning. We would drive to Tahoe. We'd be the first people in line at Squaw Valley, and we would be waiting for the lifts to open. We'd take the lifts to the back of the mountain and then ski towards the front of the mountain. Hang our lunch in a tree, eat the lunch on the chairlift. I never saw the inside of a lodge. And at the end of the day, he's begging the guys, hey, one more run. Just me and my son, one more run. And we're the last people off the mountains, drive 3 hours back to Danville, get there like 10 at night. Missions, I remember sleeping on the floorboards of his truck. And I started thinking about it, because my dad wasn't taking me down bunny slopes. He took me down the 75 chute, which is one of the hardest runs at Squaw Valley when I was 6, And so I started thinking about it recently. I'm like, oh, I get it. He wanted to really ski. Like, he wanted to spend time with his son, but he's like, I'm gonna fucking ski. So he had me going down the gnarliest runs I ever did were done when I was 6. So I'm like the same guy. Like, it's like, I'm doing the same thing. I'm up early and just trying to fit it all in as much as I can, and it's all because of him. It was the last game of the season. I remember coming off the field and going to the locker rooms, and I just remember thinking, like, I'm just not into this, like, just the whole winning, losing kind of thing, the competitive thing, and just wasn't into the whole deal. And I remember I had these brand new Vans that I'd seen that had checkerboard on the canvas, and no one wore Vans in Danville, and I was all psyched on them. And I came out of the locker room, and all my teammates were laughing at me and pointing at my shoes and making fun of me and stuff. And I fully wanted to bail. It was like totally embarrassing. But I just stood there and stared at all of them, and not one of them could look me in the eye. And I was like, none of you guys can stand on your own. Fuck you guys. And that was the last game I ever played. If I can say there's one defining moment in my life, that was it. I got a skateboard and started listening to punk rock, and then I was immediately at odds with all the jocks and parents and teachers, and that's where it all changed. I remember coming back after being gone on the weekend and taking Bart out to San Francisco and skating around in the streets, and coming back to school on Monday and looking around and going, what did you guys do? I was in San Francisco the whole weekend. It was crazy. It's like being 13 years old, and most kids aren't even seeing anything outside of Danville unless they're with their parents. And because we're skaters, we were making connections and friends and going all over the place. And by the time we got our driver's license, we had a whole network of friends across the whole East Bay. We'd take Bart from Danville to Walnut Creek and then skate for like 3 miles and then find some little curb. And there'd be other skaters there too, and then some pool. You'd show up there like on a Monday afternoon, and there'd be like 15 skaters at some random pool, and somehow you all knew how to meet there. And so super exciting when you're 13 years old and all that's coming to you, skateboarding and that music, and it just was the antithesis to everything that was surrounding me. In Danville, it's just a bubble, drugs played a big role in the skate culture back then, and my friends and I definitely got wrapped up in it. And you know, I ran away from home a couple times and got busted by the cops a few times, and it's kind of a dark time, you know. You know, my parents were going through their problems and going through a divorce, and I had my thing going, and they put me on piss tests, and I had to go pee into a cup every couple weeks, and I was scared shitless because you know, I didn't want to go to juvenile hall or jail and quit doing drugs. And I found out years later they weren't even testing my samples, that my mom told them that they had to test me, so they were just faking it. They never tested those samples, but you know, thank God my mom did that. So when I was 16, that's when I really started surfing, but it was kind of a weekend thing. And I went on a trip with my parents to Hawaii, and I brought a buddy of mine, and we were on Kauai, and I remember one night we were sitting on the beach, and we made a pact with each other that we were going to move to Hawaii after we graduated from high school. And we shook hands, and we're like, we're going to do this, you know. So we saved our money, we worked every summer, and right when we graduated, then we both moved to Oahu. At first I was just doing odd jobs, construction, landscaping, waiting tables, and then I got a job as a flight attendant, which was great. I could travel the world and surf, and as a flight attendant you have kind of fireman hours, so it's, you know, it's gone maybe 5 to 10 days a month, and then I had stretches of like 20, 30 days off. And then at the same time I got a job lifeguarding, so I juggled both those jobs. When I wasn't flying, I could work the beach. I did a year of lifeguarding on the west side, and then I did like 5 years on the North Shore or something like that. If you're white and you're from California, it's a really good place to live for a while because you're a minority, you know. Not on the North Shore as much. It's a lot of haoles mostly haoles on the North Shore, but growing up in California, we're all like really outgoing, and especially being from San Francisco, it's like do your own thing, you can be your own person, it's just like whatever. You're kind of applauded for being outgoing, whereas moving to Hawaii, you gotta be a little more low-key, watch your step. It's a different deal, and it's rough, you know, like it's just part of the territory. But it was a good kind of lesson as a kid to just watch your step a little bit. A big inspiration to me was Peter Cole. He's one of the first guys to pioneer the North Shore, and he was one of the best surfers out there in the 50s and 60s, but he always had a job. And I think because he didn't pour his entire life into surfing, he was always really stoked on it. He had a family, he had a job, and he was surfing all into his 70s. Where a lot of his contemporaries were burnt. They put too much into it, and that's all they had. And so I always looked at those older guys kind of as a blueprint for my life, like what to do and what not to do, you know? So I came to a point where I think I needed to just get out of there. I'd been writing some stories for Surfer's Journal and taking some pictures, and I developed a relationship with Patagonia, and an opportunity came up to possibly work for them, and I probably wouldn't have moved for any other company, but Patagonia to me just seemed right in line with what I wanted to do, and their values and everything seemed to match with mine, and I just took a leap of faith and moved to California to work for Patagonia. Moving here, I really got more into rock climbing because it's kind of, to me, Yosemite is kind of the North Shore of rock climbing. It's where everybody goes every season from all over the world. Of course, there's better places beyond, but it's kind of where everything happens every year. And to me, it's coming here. It's like having the North Shore right up in the mountains. Like I miss the world-class surf that Hawaii has to offer, so I don't have that anymore. So Yosemite to me is like having just this world-class environment that I can go to and I can climb by myself. I didn't really think about photography as a career until a few years ago. It didn't really dawn on me that I was a professional photographer. It just things kind of just happened, and I always wrote stories and took photos like in my journals and while I was traveling. I always did that, and it just kind of seemed like I kept doing that. And I was taking pictures of my friends, and still to this day, it's like I'm just taking pictures of my friends. It's always been that way. And it's just developed into this career kind of organically. And I remember it dawned on me when I did some trip sailing down through Mexico, and we had to check in at customs, I think in Acapulco, and I had to sign, occupation. And I kind of didn't know what to sign, and I'm like, I guess photographer. And it was the first time I really realized, like, oh, I guess I'm a photographer now, and it's still kind of weird to me that I am, and it just kind of happened that way. I've never done just one thing. I've always liked to do a lot of different things, skating, surfing, climbing, skiing, whatever. And so photography is just one of the things I like to do. I direct videos, I work on product, I still write stories, I've got books in the works. I'm just going to continue doing the same thing I'm doing, but I'm going to have a kid, and we're going to be doing, hopefully, a lot of this stuff together, and I'm going to be hanging at home and being a dad, and I don't want to be one of those dads that's gone all the time. And I know once you have a kid, you don't want to be gone. I want to be with that kid every day. So, but I'm going to have to travel a little bit. But the kid gets of age, hopefully he or she's traveling with us, and I'm just going to be bringing that kid up to the mountains when he's 5 years old. I never really focused on one thing, and I've always just kind of followed my heart and did what I thought was right and just got involved in things that I was excited about. I guess it's just doing what I've wanted to do, for good or worse.